Strike in Doha that targeted Hamas leaders. President Donald Trump signed an executive order pledging US military support to defend Qatar against external threats. Ladies and gentlemen, Qatar has been targeted twice, one by Iran, another one by Israel. This is the latest breaking news has come to me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Satv's International Affairs. My name is Rashid Kanchon. I will be your host. I have a very terrific gentleman at my studio, Yar Commodore Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhuri, who is very good at international affairs news analysis. And from Washington, we have Norman Flatt Barnes, our international affairs commentator and geopolitical correspondent based in Washington, D.C., and our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho, currently traveling Washington, D.C. He also will be joining with us very soon. Let me begin from Mr. Norman. Mr. Norman, US government shutdown begins. Problem started. The Republicans are begging to Democrats to come to a negotiations to make deal to come back from shutdown. What are you seeing? What are you going to tell about this shutdown? Very unprecedented, because 7 years before, these same things happened while Donald Trump was in the administration. Mr. Norman from Washington, D.C.
Good morning, everyone. From here in Washington today, the shutdown is continuing, and the Republicans are holding fast with their position of proceeding with the current budget and the issue with health care. However, the Democrats are split in their, response. There's signs that several of the Democrats are considering conceding to the current request. However, there's others who still wants to hang on the notion of the healthcare issue. That is still a big issue going on right now, is what are we going to do about the healthcare and the rising costs of medical services. So right now, there's signs that we may have a conclusion. That's the word this morning, that some people are talking about changing, and it may end this standoff. But the issue is still there. What are we going to do about the healthcare issue?
Norman, what were the main points of disagreement in Congress that led to this government totally shut down?
The main point was we have at the end of the year we have what we call the Obama health care that is scheduled to end at the end of the year, and the Democrats wants it to be extended. And the other part is that health care is scheduled to go up this month. The cost of premiums is scheduled to go up almost double, actually double than what they're paying now. And the consumers are basically saying that they cannot afford it, and people will lose their health coverage. That is the issue because of the cost, and people will subsequently die because they can't afford health care. But the current administration wants to move forward, and they wants to right now. The other issue is jobs. The administration want to cut down on jobs, the federal jobs. Right now, the other concern is now that this gives the Trump administration an opportunity to trim and slim down the amount of workforce in the United States in terms of the federal government. Currently, there's 750,000 federal employees on furlough, and they're looking at not bringing some of these people back permanently. So we're looking at people losing jobs and losing health care. That is the issue that we're dealing with right now, is basically we have an impasse regarding employment and health coverage for the upcoming year.
All right, Norman, let me come back to studio. Here I have BR Commodore Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhary, sir, world's number one economy, world's most powerful nation, world's most so far purified democracy, and in power Donald Trump, who guide himself, who doesn't listen anyone. Now he is facing officially government shutdown, and Jack Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries not cooperating him to open back to the government shutdown to rerun the government. What kind of democratic pressure or power of balance it is you see from your point of view, because you have experience to observe the international democratic practices around the globe?
I mean, this is not the first time this has happened. This has happened a number of times. I think more than 10 times this thing has happened. I mean, once you, on the day the next financial year begins, if you can't pass the budget, then you don't get your salary. This is unlike Bangladesh, where the government, whether from the highest to the lowest, they keep on getting their salary. But in America, United States, that's not the case. So that's what you are stuck in. 750,000 people did not get their salary of the first of this month, and they don't know how long it will continue. Plus, Trump, you see, and their administration feels that the federal employees are too many, and they can cut down these numbers, and to improve the efficiency, they need to cut down the fat and just keep the muscle. So it goes on his, according to his philosophy, that he should cut down the size of the administration. But as Norman said, that this will affect the poorest of the poor of America, and especially on healthcare, people are. It's as you were saying, that people will die without medical facilities. This is even country like Bangladesh. It is unthinkable that you see in our country the government hospitals are always almost free for everybody, but then in America you got to pay for everything. That's how the American society is. From his birth, the child is told to, they grow up on that. There is very little charity there. So as you said that yes, this country, United States economy, I am not an economist, but as far as you know, that they have been too long surviving on debt. The country, you said this is the biggest country, strongest country, militarily, economically, but it is also the world's heaviest debt burden.
$38 trillion.
You see how they are going to pay back, who is going to take this. I mean, the world economy is such, they are still controlling, the dollar is controlling, the US Fed is controlling the world economy. But this is it cannot go on forever. One day it will collapse and we may end up in a global recession.
Right.
So this is, I hope that things, but I want to come back to one thing, that how it will affect Bangladesh. You see, since Trump has come in power, USAID has been reduced, scholarships and our entry, all these facilities have reduced, and lot of NGOs, their money has been stuck, and we are also, those NGOs are shutting themselves down and they can't pay their employees. So this is American policies directly affects Bangladesh too, and you see whom are these NGOs working? They were working mostly for the very poor and deprived class. So if the NGOs don't get the money and they don't work, then it is again the poor in Bangladesh that suffer.
So the American economic slowdown will impact directly to Bangladesh. I totally agree. Your points are very important. Let me connect with Shamsul Alam Pantho, SATV's international affairs commentator, currently traveling Washington DC after covering United Nations General Assembly. Shamsul Alam Pantho, very good morning from Dhaka studio. May I know what are the topics you have in your table right this moment as you are watching and monitoring world's top news headlines and the stories? Shamsul Alam Pantho from Washington DC.
A very good afternoon in Bangladesh, and of course welcoming all our panelists today through Zoom and of course in the studio. We were talking, definitely I was listening to what Mr. Barnes was saying regarding the federal shutdown of the government here in America. And of course, it has a lot of people concerned on how many days it might take. Let me give you some history. The last that such a shutdown happened was way back in 2019, if I'm not wrong, if not 18, and it lasted well above 30 days. So, what will happen in the month of October for America is still a big question, as we see Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He is was addressing almost more than 500 generals of the U.S. military, and of course they were sitting there in a entire room full of silence, as commentated by POTUS, the President of United States of America. And of course, you mentioned how Jeffries was turned into a hilarious video was posted by Donald Trump on his Truth Social handle, and how this mocking game has taken turn right immediately after this shutdown. But in other news, there are worldwide updates. I just want to touch on the fact that the Israel and USA joint declaration towards a peace negotiation with Hamas. Hamas is still reviewing the terms of this negotiation, according to Qatari based news agency Al Jazeera. And in addition to this, we know that a global Sumud flotilla was headed towards the Gaza waters, and the initial couple of boats who were in the front lines of this attempt to remove the blockade of the IDF. So the first couple of boats were intercepted. We know that a prominent photojournalist from Bangladesh, Shahidul Alam, is in one of these boats, and he is giving us live updates towards what is happening. And he is on the boat called Conscience, which actually is one of the boats that are on the rear side of this entire flotilla. So that is a developing story, and there have been protests erupting out well into Italy and other nations in Europe regarding this interception by the IDF. So these are the main agendas we can talk about today.
Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho, I'm really proud of you because your dynamic journalism and covering almost all over the world's top breaking news stories will definitely enrich our show today. I just want to ask you one question, if you have observation on that. We know that due to shutdown of the government, the cleaning services, security services, federal contractors will be hampered. But how are essential services such as defense, healthcare and enforcement being managed during the shutdown? Probably there is a clause in the Congress that defense budget will not be hampered. Do you have any idea or any take on this, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho?
Well, thank you for asking me something that is so eminent. Essential workers such as air traffic controllers, certain law enforcement, TSA that we see in the American airports will continue to work as per their duties, but will not be paid until funding is restored. So these are basically civil services where people are employed in a government job capacity, and so these people will not get their funding until the funding is restored. And of course, some agencies are preparing reduction in force plans, which includes the possible permanent layoffs instead of just furloughs. So this is a very crucial time for Americans here in Washington, D.C., and not just that, throughout the entire country in the United States. And of course, one thing that I would like to mention is that the parks will see less of people to maintain the national parks that there is in the past. We've seen that when previously such an event had happened, there was trash lying around outside of trash cans, just to show that people have tried to place the trash where it is. However, there was no removal of that garbage from that area, just signifying how much a job cut time is coming towards the local governments over here and the local states over here in America.
Very smart reporting. I want to get back Norman Flatt Barnes, because Norman always complains to me that I put all the difficult and complicated, complex questions to Norman's table. Today, I apologize for asking such a question. Once again, what political risk do both Democratic Party and Republicans face if the shutdown continues for an extended period? We see rivalry of both the parties, but real American voters and citizens are blaming Republicans for this failure of government shutdown. Mr. Norman Flatbarnes.
Yes, the pushback on this shutdown and the continuation of it will have a profound effect on the entire Congress, both Republicans and Democrats. It is viewed as a failure of the government to do its job. Uh, People are going to be out of work. Services are going to be cut. People are not going to have social services. They respond. Right now we have over 22 million people depend on subsidies supplied by the government every month. That is going to be curtailed, in some cases eliminated, and the administrators, the lawmakers who are responsible for this know that the people are not happy, and it's coming to the point where the midterm elections coming up, and people have a very long memory on exactly on what's going on. So it's going to have an effect, and they're feeling the pressure of the lawmakers on getting this deal done, but at the same time, uh, they have to consider the services needed by the people. Over 4 million people are going to lose care right now. 4 million people are going to lose their health coverage over the next decade, just as we sit right now. There's no plan for recovery of that.
All right, Norman.
And
Norman,
people,
let us match it with the Bangladesh's government versus lawmakers versus general people. Because in the studio I have Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhuri. Sir, you see, Donald Trump is the most powerful man on the earth, but his Republican Party is dominating both the houses, Congress and Senate, but he is stuck now for the non-cooperation or the protest of the Congress leader and Democratic leader in Congress and Senate both. See the balance of power, the balance of capacity.
That's what I want to disagree with you, that American president is not the most powerful man on earth. You see, the American Constitution is such that it maintains a balance of power between the Congress and the President and the Supreme Court, and the whole, the Constitution is a balanced Constitution. So he can do many things, but his tail can also be cut by, like the way you are seeing it now. He can send troops abroad, but he can't declare war. He can send troops abroad. If they are not financed by the Congress, then he is going to, end up in a mess. So this is apparently, but if he tries to do anything too fast and without consulting the other branches of American Constitution, he is going to be in trouble. I just want to get back into what Pantho talked about, the American Defense Secretary or War Secretary.
Pete
Hegseth's speech. I was listening to it. Believe me, I felt very let down, because while as a Secretary of Defense he has all the rights to criticize the American military, but the way he was pointing at the females or the colored people, you see, and he was saying that we have compromised in order to bring in balance, which is not true. We have, for example, Colin Powell. He was a colored
Secretary of Defense.
He was general. Then he was chief of the Joint Staff,
yes,
and then he became Secretary of Defense. And what a successful career he has made from a very humble beginning. These are what the Americans should be proud of. And you see the female pilots, I know particularly, who have been, they have exactly the same criteria they meet as far as the males are concerned. And even in every branch of the US military, you have to have the same physical, and the American females, they made it sure that if male have to go through 5 miles in so many minutes, the female also has to go through 5 miles so many minutes.
Yes, sir.
So many press ups you have to do, So he was hinting that Americans, we have compromised the efficiency military. While he was delivering this speech, I was thinking that has he served in the military? I don't know. Most probably he hasn't served in the military, but he was sermonizing them about these things, which is to me sounded to be a little racist, you know. And that's
he is
what
very aggressive.
This way you cannot win, you know, the heart and mind of the people who are fighting, you see, for you. And that's what the whole hall was silence. They did not applaud. And now coming back to, you asked about the American democracy at work, and yes, it is true that he is, and at a time when he is planning to, you know, go for a second round with Iran, as some people are saying. He is trying. What in the beginning you talked about the his administrative order to Qatar.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it is not against Israel. It is against Iran, and he is putting up more of his assets there. If Israel decides to attack again, I am sure they will not be able to see. But he is preparing, trying to pressurize Iran. Already new sanctions have been imposed on Iran, and he is backing it up by military force. So that he is going to defend Qatar. Qatar is not threatened by Iran. Qatar is not threatened by Saudi Arabia. Qatar, who are the Qatar's neighbor? Qatar's neighbors are Saudi Arabia, UAE, you know, Bahrain. Yes. They are not threatened, but they are threatened by Israel. But he is not going to move against Israel. He is going to move against Iran, and that's why he is positioning. But at a time when he is positioning his forces there, if he alienates the military leadership in the country, and you know, civil administration also, they are very much part of it, then he will be in trouble. He will land this. He's going to land United States in trouble.
Let me get the impression or expression of American people after the Pete Hegseth conducting an address in front of more than 500 generals and commanders, has come back to Virginia from around the globe, from different bases. Let me onboard Shamsul Panto, who is monitoring this issue, who is following this issue. So, Shamsul Panto, have you got the impression of American people, American other politicians, American medias about Pete Hegseth's speech in front of the generals, which was kind of humiliated, which was kind of aggressive, and here Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhry says kind of racism he found on that speech. What is your take on that?
Thank you for the significant question, and also thank you, Ishfaq sir, for bringing up how he had dealt with all the generals there. Of course, he had made remarks about no more staff member who are unfit or who may have beer bellies or round bellies. So he was giving influence on those, one kind of fat shaming those who have gained a little extra around their torsos. But one thing to note here is that the US military is legally and ethically bound to remain non-partisan and apolitical, regardless of whether Democrats or Republicans are in power. This is a fundamental to preserving civilian control of the military and maintaining public trust in the armed forces. So this is why they didn't need to give a cheer on when Pete Hegseth was addressing them, whether or not they were all trying to understand what is the scope, what are the leaders trying to say, and in which direction is the defense Department of Defense is going to know or going to go in the future. But in my brief time over here in Washington, D.C., I've had the pleasure to get on the metro station over here. And I can tell you that the National Guard is very well active. As I was going around my daily travel today, I have seen them guarding the entrances of such metro station that by the National Guard. So it is safe to say that even though there is not an imminent threat in the city of District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., but they're still there to guard and, of course, to uphold the law. So these are the comments regarding this specific incident. Of course, I hope that post Mr. Hegseth's remarks towards the military general, I think there should be uplift in morale.
All right, Shamsul Panto, we want to shift from subject to subject. We want to look at the peace deal, 20 points peace deal submitted by Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, to US President Donald Trump.
I think it was the President who submitted it to
submitted 21 points, then 20 points has been declared, sir. I want to put a question to Norman. Hamas announced that it will examine thoroughly the peace plan proposed by the US, which calls for disarmament and surrender in exchange for war-ending terms. Norman, would you please let us know, do you see hope that this deal is going to be signed? Because Hamas did not show any interest for disarmament and to surrender. To be very honest, I was watching ILTV, Israeli state-owned television, and they are showing that Hamas started to talk to surrender, but news we could not independently verify.
My observation and assessment is that Hamas is going to reject this proposal. It does not show any type of, I guess, safety valve for them to survive, coexist, or protection. The issue is still Palestine. Gaza is talked about, but the Palestine state issue has not been put on the table. And the issue of disarming, totally disarming, is something that I don't think they're going to be able to accept.
All right, Norman, thank you, gentlemen. Gentlemen, I apologize for a short commercial break, but after the break, I will have literally two tough questions, top opinion from Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhry and Shamsul Alam Pantho, as well as Mr. Norman. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a time for a short commercial break.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিংয়ের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিংয়ের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, at the International Affairs Show, broadcasting from SATV's Dhaka studio. During the break, I was talking with Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhry. I said that, sir, I will ask you really a tough question, which is how realistic is it to expect Hamas to accept such terms, 20-point terms, given its political stance and military position? I will ask directly, what will be the future of Hamas, sir?
First of all, you used one in the previous years, our comments, you said surrender. It's not really the one he's proposing here is not surrender, but sort of renounce the use of arms. For example, Yasir Arafat's PLO, at that time it was PLA was a militant organization, okay? But he renounced the use of arms took out his pistol in the Camp David and said, from now on we go back to the as a constitutional form, you see.
Yes, sir.
So Hamas, what they are saying, that although it's very difficult, but at this stage he is saying that you renounce the use of weapons and come back. Yes, those who they surrendered their military and come back and get into the mainstream politics, and maybe tomorrow you have Hamas. Hamas was initially a political party, you know, in the
Yes, sir.
they fought the election. So you fight the elections, and if people wants to elect you, you can get elected again. But you are right that it will be a very serious political decisions. But look at their military position now. What options do they have? They have lost almost whole of Gaza. They have now said their leadership is in Qatar, and they got saved by few seconds that from the Israeli attack. And no Arab states are supporting them in that way. Nobody is coming to their help. It is the aid flotilla that is now going into Gaza are all non-Arabs. Most of them are non-Arabs. Europeans are going there. So if you don't have, your military supply, and from Iran also the supply is not coming, or it's trickled down. So what military position you have? So they have, if they have to sustain, probably they will negotiate. Ultimately, they will negotiate and come to a political settlement that they will exist as a political entity and renounce the use of arms. And if the Israelis, vacate Gaza, and as Trump has said that it will be a simultaneous thing, they will renounce the use of force, there will be a complete ceasefire as it is, and then the Israelis will pull out and the peace will be restored, and then future political decisions will be taken. So I think although it is a difficult political decisions, but the military situation is such that Hamas will have to accept it.
Exactly, sir. So let us come back to Shamsul Alam Panthu once again from Washington DC. Sir, my question would be, if United States and Israel call Hamas a terrorist organization, and some Arabian countries are calling Israel a terrorist country, do you think this 20 points negotiation or peace deal will benefited Israeli Prime Minister to be in power and to disarm Hamas?
Quite an important question from your end. From my end, let me put the timeline here. Donald Trump, initially when he said how long is this deal going to last, or how long will you allow Hamas to renew or to look at the 20 points, he said 3 to 4 days. We know when Donald Trump gives a 2 weeks timeline, he means 3 days. But when he gives a 4-day timeline, I think he's trying to get something out of this, as it has caused ripple effects not only here across the planet, but also at a UNGA. We see the Colombian Prime Minister, I forgot his name, but he had came out in direct protest and of this Israeli attack and support towards Palestinian people. And of course, this is a very crucial time, a trying time, end of the year. And of course, what we know right now is there is no guarantee in which this might go. But if Hamas delays or rejects the plan, many of its components would still proceed in areas where possible. Of course, delivering aid and establishing stability, while Israel retains US backing to take the necessary actions, which in their terms they mean to take over the Gaza Strip and to eliminate innocent women, children, families, those who are not Hamas, but those who are unfortunately so on the other side of history.
Right, sir. I want to do a prospective questions which may happen or may not happen to my very favorite Norman Flood Barnes, who understands Middle East very, very well, who has deep study on Middle East crisis, who worked as negotiator. Mr. Norman, how might Israel, the Palestinian Authority and the broader Arab world react if Hamas agrees or refuses or disagree the proposal? Mr. Norman.
The response that we are seeing in the spec is that there's a plan that's been mobilized to basically uh, start redeveloping Gaza. That plan, the Arab nations is full aware of it. They bought in on it. Israeli and the United States are planning to put boots on the ground and start the redeveloping area. It's just a matter of how does Hamas picture themselves in this? Are they going to be included in this, or are they going to be excluded from this and continue with their quest? But change is coming. There has to be some type of change. This continued conflict can't sustain itself. And like you say, President Trump has put a deadline, most likely by this weekend, for Hamas to respond. And if they don't respond, certain things are going to take place. Matter of fact, they're already taking place right now, anticipating a no response, a slow response.
All right, Mr. Norman Flatburn, SATV's geopolitical correspondent based in Washington, D.C., and our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Panto, who is also currently traveling Washington, D.C. I really appreciate both of you. Let me come back to the studio. And I have a breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Like this moment, Israel intercepts Gaza aid flotilla, and Israeli naval forces have boarded and detained several vessels, including one carrying Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. Sir, situation in that Middle East area is still in an active situation. As a military professional, what is your comment? Is these agreements or peacekeeping are just eyewash, or just a kind of diplomacy, or giving or allowing Israel to take more preparation, better preparation to go for better attack?
Israel has almost occupied the whole of Gaza. Whatever is left are all, part of the southern deserts and all. If their aim is to take over Gaza, there is no force which can stop them, you see, because nobody is stopping them. And only the people of Gaza, they are suffering, and nobody is coming to their aid. So my answer to your question is that the Palestinian people have no other option. There is no other plan, you see, other than Trump's plan, which might be very, very one-sided. What are the other plans? Has Putin got a plan, or has the United Nations given a plan, or has the Chinese come in? Nobody. So only the Americans are there. So they have very little, frankly speaking, although it is a very unpalatable decision, but they have very little. Even the Palestinian Authority is silent on these things. So if they don't agree, as they said, then my hands off, and the Israelis will wipe them off our territories, and further destruction, further loss of life. If we want that, that can happen. Otherwise, there should be, because all the conflict in the world, whether it is 100 years war or 200 years war or 30 years war that has happened in Europe, it has already all ended up with the negotiated on the negotiating table. Now, what are the other options we have in the negotiating table? You just talked about this the peace flotilla. Now, these are all unarmed people. They have boarded them. So what? They have boarded them. They might even arrest them and send them back to their own country. But how will it change the world situation? The other day Erdogan was threatening that if this flotilla is intercepted, my drones will fill up the sky of Tel Aviv. Let's see if there will be actually nobody will do anything.
These are media battles, sir.
Media trying to get attention, but actually nothing will happen. So I suggest that good sense should prevail. And you see, every time there has been whether it is in time of Clinton, whether it is time of Barack Obama, whether it is in the time of even last Joe Biden. One step forward towards peace, there has been 2 steps backward by the extremists. Netanyahu is now, if the peace is restored, Netanyahu will try to war to continue, because he doesn't want to face an election in his own country. He doesn't want to face court. There are a number of cases against him on corruption cases. The longer the war continues, the more he can say it's a wartime situation, so we can. But if we are looking for the peace and looking for the innocent, saving the innocent lives, there is no other alternative but peace, and there is no other alternative but an immediate ceasefire and coming to talks, in which other Arab countries can play, as you said, the reconstruction of Gaza. Let the Arabs, let the Saudis, let the Kuwaitis, Gulf Council, they come in and let the reconstruction go on. But as he said, as Trump said, that I will never allow Israel to annex Gaza. That's what they are planning. That we will throw out all these people and we will call it a part of Israeli territory. That Trump has said categorically he will not allow. So I think let us give peace a chance.
All right,
let us give peace a chance and see what happens. Because continued hostilities and killing will not result in anything but the loss of
Right,
innocent
sir.
lives.
Hope you have seen a video broadcasted by different American medias and Israeli medias that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has handed over a letter to Donald Trump in White House that he has written Nobel Committee to award Donald Trump Nobel Peace Prize, and his opposition in Knesset, General Benny Gantz, said, of course, this is what we want, but at the same time, Netanyahu will be in the history as the most killing human and most killing Israeli leader. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to go for a short commercial break, but I'll not deprive you. I have a breaking news. That is, Zelensky warns of nuclear risk at Russian-held plant. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has raised alarms about a deteriorating situation at a Russian-controlled nuclear facility, urging international intervention to prevent a potential disaster by nuclear attack. Ladies and gentlemen, very alarming, very threatening. I'll come back after a short break.
Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet.
Sir, as you heard in the breaking news that Zelensky says there is a nuclear attack possibility in the Russian plant. This is number one. I want to get your attention. On the other side, Russia is violating airspace of Estonia, Poland and recently Denmark. My question is, how serious is the threat posed by suspected Russian-linked drone activity over Denmark and other parts of Europe? Is it a kind of checking reactions of the NATO members or European countries?
Yes, of course. They are trying to These are the probes, you see, trying to check your how strong you are in supporting Ukraine, and what are you ready to pay the price, you see. And this is very serious, of course. This is going to, it has already impacted the whole world, their economy, our lifestyle, and both for Russia as well as Western Europe, this is a very serious problem. And here is one of the failure of Trump, you see. He said before he got elected, he gave, I think, about 72 hours or something that I am going to solve this problem, but it's not.
He said 24 hours.
24 okay, now 24 days have gone and nothing, and it's getting more and more serious. And if the Ukrainian nuclear plant has been attacked, if not directly but around it, it has been,
Yes,
it has suffered shutdown and all. Now if Zelensky is now planning to put it back to the Russians, that is another one step up the risk factor. And you know that any attack on these nuclear installations could be very disastrous, not only for the country where it is located, all around. The radiation can spread and everybody can be. We expect that, I'm sure that will not happen, but even if it happens by accident, that is very dangerous. And about the upping the scale, you see, initially it was arms aid, now there are aircraft are going there, and if the Polish Air Force is now on the front line, it's a NATO member state, and if its bases and other installations are attacked, then that will be considered as an attack on the whole NATO, and the Americans will of course have to
Sir,
back it up.
as you
So it
raised
is
about the NATO, here is the big question raised in last 3 weeks. President Donald Trump stopped talking about NATO. Rather, he is mentioning European Union more. Last 21 days, even in his speech in the United Nations General Assembly, he did not mention the term NATO. Why this paradigm shift from the President of United Nations? Is he upset on NATO member support?
Of course, because he has been. If you are in the NATO, then you have to have spent certain amount of your GDP on defense, which
5%.
5%. They have done nowhere close to it. Some countries are spending 1.5 like this. So he is saying that why United States alone has to take the burden. So, and if they have to take the burden, they have to take the military and the financial burden too. So, and in fact, some of these European countries have a higher standard of living than United States itself, in every respect. And you see, it is the American soldiers who are dying everywhere around the world, not that many British, or Polish or German troops. So he is trying to, by this not mentioning NATO and talking to the European Union, he is trying to emphasize on the Europeanness of the whole issue. You see, if the European can't get together, then the Americans might as well go for an isolationist policy of like Monroe Doctrine, that okay, on this side is Atlantic, on this side is Pacific, I don't bother beyond that. But that is not possible. American role in the world over. If America vacates that role, who will take over that role? That role will be taken by China. And China is getting ready to do that. First the Pacific, and then next time Indian Ocean, and maybe the Atlantic day after tomorrow. So is America ready to accept that? I don't think so. So there will be currents and cross currents, but right now our most important thing is attention is Ukraine war, stopping whatever it is. There has to be a negotiated settlement there, and as I always said, there must not be a clear winner and loser. It should be something that everybody can take home, that well, I have done my best and this is what we have got. Same thing in Palestine and Gaza. Palestine, it's been almost more than 100 years that we have the problem. You see, started off from the First World War, and now we are in another century, and the world cannot just go on focusing on an issue which should have been settled long back. And there also again, Israel's statehood and it must be protected. Same way, the Palestinians must be given their rightful share.
Both the nations have the right to protect themselves.
Yes, and the most ideal situation would be if they can live like a peaceful neighbors.
All right, sir.
And that is best for
all
everyone.
Right, very articulated. I have got back Shamsul Alam Pantho from Washington once again. I have a question to him. Shamsul Alam Pantho, when Vladimir Putin stopped talking on the media or stop talking on his cabinet, the Western world become very, very scary. Because when he stopped talking, after that, people see, world see his attacks or aggression on other countries. What do you think? His drones are talking, his airspace violations are talking, he is not talking. Do you think the Western people or Western leaders are really thinking what is the next move of Vladimir Putin, because he is disturbing Poland, Denmark and Estonia?
Well, thank you for having me back. And of course, this latest violation of drone entering into Poland, Estonia, other surrounding neighborhoods and countries, and of course, demarcated by international boundaries. Having violated the airspace of such countries, of course, will prompt the NATO readiness of how the NATO will attempt to take on Russia. Of course, earlier this week, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that if Tomahawks are deployed in Ukraine, they will not change the course of the conflict. So, of course, these Tomahawk missiles are from the US, and of course, Vladimir Putin's war chess room, of course, has this issue where if the Tomahawks are allowed into Ukraine, such a escalatory conflict will only coming to more escalation. But there is no stop to either this front and also the Israeli front that we were talking about on the innocent Palestinian people. So these are the two developments. There are going to be more news coming on regarding these two issues.
I will have one more last question, but in this between, I want to go to Ishfaq Elahi Chaudhry, because I have a very important and necessary question which has the relevance to the interest of Bangladesh. That is Rohingya repatriation. Recently, Chief Advisor addressed and did some sideline meetings with the European and Western counterparts, donors, to go for a settlement of Rohingya. Sir, what is your observation? What is the outcome?
Well, first of all, it was an attempt to draw the international players to the issue which was already in the back page of the news. You know, we are talking about Ukraine and we are talking about Gaza and all. When the Rohingya issue started, that was on the front line. But our fear was that very soon it will lose the front page and it will go in the back. And exactly that has happened. The world is no longer, it appears that they are no longer concerned with this crisis. There are much bigger crises to deal with. Now the attempt by Bangladesh has been to draw this attention back towards the issue, and I would say that taking it up in the United Nations General Assembly, and there are about 60 plus speakers and many representing the different countries and states. It was a very good attempt, you know, and as you said, also on sidelines, many issues, many talks with the other leaders. But at the outcome, you see, what is the outcome? We have not been able to generate the interest of China and Russia, two main players. India, zero. Russia, China, if they veto, and they are again saying that we must negotiate with the Myanmar's government, and the Myanmar's military, they are actually backing them with military aid and financial aid, because they are, you see, China, for example, is a huge beneficiary from the military governments, supply of oil and gas and, you know, entry into the ports. So, only thing we got was some monetary assistance from the United States and UK, which as was reported in today's newspaper is only 30% of the requirement of 2025, yes, which is coming to an end. So, what are they going to eat? What are they going to, how are they going to live? We are again and again saying this 1.2 million Rohingyas have no future.
Very, very important.
Hungry people are angry people.
Yes, sir. Let me get the last comment from Shamsul Alam Pantha from Washington, DC, and that should be within 1 minute, sir. What do you think? What is the outcome of Chief Advisor's activities and his stance on Rohingya repatriation took place in UNGA?
Let me be very clear and very short. The UNGA 80, the US and UK pledged a total of 96 million US dollars for humanitarian aid for the Rohingya issue. But I believe there is more money held up in the spaces that conquer Cox's Bazar. This needs to be a permanent issue. Of course, monetary help will solve us in the short time, but we need to look for a long-term issue and long-term solution to this worldwide crisis.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your thoughtful and insightful information you have put today's show. Shamsulun Panto, I wish you a very good day in Washington, D.C. I have seen weather is fantastic today. Enjoy your day. And I appreciate again, sir, you too, for your wonderful contribution today.
Thank you.
One British journalist asked to Professor Muhammad Yunus, what is the number one problem in your country? He says, we don't have any problem, but we have a dispute with Rohingya. We have to do a dignified and voluntary repatriation of this. I really appreciate that comment has gone to the British newspaper, The Mirror. And ladies and gentlemen, I will again see you on Sunday with lot of breaking news, lot of news analysis and top world stories. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.